Jean-Michel. It's a great honor to have you here in my studio in Milan. Thank you for coming. I have some questions for you. One time Fellini told you, I thought I was making different films, but if I look back, I realize I've always done the same. So it is true for every artist. This is your consideration. A career is the declination of the same obsession. So what is your obsession in your path as an artist?
So, thank you, Dario, to welcome me in your great studio. I have lots of instruments are quite familiar to me, looking like my own studio. So I feel almost like being at home. I think that we all have, as a great artist, you have also your own obsessions. We have probably always the same one is probably to think about what could be the ideal song or the ideal song you could write, or the ideal music you could write, and we probably will never achieve it. But this is the reason why we go on as a stubborn guy. I mean, trying to go closer and closer to the ideal idea you have in mind. It's like a mirage,
Yeah.
More you think you are closer to it, more it's just escaping.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, why I'm getting on with the same enthusiasm or the same excitement every morning when I go in the studio and trying to find ideas. I really find myself like a beginner. I'm not into nostalgia. I'm not so interested by what I've done before. It's done. It's over. It doesn't belong to me anymore. So I'm really more into the present time and what's going to happen in the next few hours and days by dealing and winning with the technology around me.
You say that the cradle of electronic music is Europe and not America, citing The Art of Noise by Luigi Russolo and especially Music Concrete, Pierre Schaeffer and Pierre Henry, who is present in your last Oxymore album through its sounds that you merged with yours. What did you take from the research and how did you translate it into your works?
Dario, I think that as Latin artists or continental European artists, we have this great heritage of classical music, where we always, for centuries, where we are dealing with textures, with in approaching composition in a totally different way than just pop songs of 3 minutes.
Yeah.
This is and our music, our roots. Even if now everything is mixed and morphed into each other, has nothing to do basically originally with jazz, blues, or rock that came later, and in a sense rock and roll or pop is ethnic music from America, which invaded the world, and but our roots are coming from classical music and also this whole electronic music we are developing since the beginning of the 20th century is coming from Italy, is coming from France, is coming from Germany, from continental Europe. You were mentioning Luigi Russolo. In 1910, he was like a sci-fi writer for us, for musicians, because he really guessed and he really thought about the future, that one day we'll do music with machines, we'll do music with technology, the way we are doing now. So everything is coming from, in terms of electronic music, from Europe, from our countries. And this project Oxymore, my new album, is a kind of tribute or homage of this beginning of electronic, the roots of electronic music being born in our countries.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I thought this could be good to use some sounds from a famous French pioneer of electroacoustic music, of musique concrète, Pierre Henry, who with another Pierre called Pierre Schaeffer, they both really defined music for the first time in terms of sounds and not only in terms of notes based on solfeggio. So I said it could be quite nice to use some of these sounds as a kind of source of inspiration for my new album. and my personal link with him is actually we were planning a few years ago to work together for one track, and he got ill, he passed away, and then I got the surprise that his wife, his widow, gave me some sounds that he prepared for me, so maybe one day I could do something with it. And because also he was one of the first one to explore spatialization and 360, a multi-mono, multi-channel, and because for quite a long time I wanted to compose and to create an album and a piece of music in 360 and in multi-channel from the beginning, at the stage of composition and writing, I said it could be a good opportunity to use some of these sounds and at the same time to pay tribute to these people who devised what electronic music will become today, already in the late 40s.
I would like to talk about the revolution of binaural audio in terms of creativity. Usually what we do today is mix in stereo and then turn it into spatial audio. So it's a process that happens later. It doesn't involve the creative act. What new creative opportunities have you found working on Oxymore? What is the music of future?
For centuries we always had a frontal relationship with music. When you compose for symphonic orchestra, you visualize the orchestra in front of you by saying, okay, we have the strings on one side, the percussions on the other side, and brass or winds on the other side. And when we are in a studio, like for instance today, we have speakers in front of us. So we are thinking and projecting ourselves like a painter in front of a canvas of dealing sounds like in a frontal way in 2D. And stereo doesn't exist in nature. As we know, when we are talking to each other, we are talking in mono.
Yeah.
And the bird singing is talking in mono.
From everywhere.
Yeah. And then, as we know, in the day-to-day life, sound is coming from everywhere. So I said it could be interesting at the level as your question was about. At the level of at the beginning, saying, okay, instead of thinking my music in a frontal way, why not think about the arrangement by saying, okay, one piece of the orchestration or arrangement maybe could be here, and then it could move from back left to front right, and then depending on the BPM, I could also move the sound from this side to that side. So of course, as we know as musicians, it's a total different approach. And then the problem we know as producers, we know that when you are in front of a stereo, you have to deal with layers of sounds and creating perspective in stereo. And like a painter, if you put too many layers, it's becoming gray. Every painter knows that. If they put too many colors, it's becoming gray. It's the same for us. And then, of course, if suddenly you deal in 360 degrees, every sound will have its own space. And it's a total different approach of composition. And I think this is the reason why Oxymore, my new album, is fairly different from what I've done before. Even if Fellini was saying that we're always doing the same thing, of course it's still me, but the process is totally really different.
Today, on a creative level, a producer or composer have a limitless palette at disposal, and I'm thinking about analog, digital instrument, virtual instruments, plugin and software that came out every week. So sometimes it seems to be very difficult to have a sort of creative map. So I listened to Oxymore, and I think that is really impressive because it hides a lot of different creative approaches from the past to the future. So did you have a creative map at the beginning of this last work, or did you feel totally free to explore your visions?
Most of the time it's what I do who tells me where I go. It means that, partly in that case, I didn't know what could be the result of Oxymore by dealing something that I never really experienced, and on the way. I suddenly realized that this was like opening doors on new territories. I say, but wow, I can get some sounds behind me. I never thought about that. How does it? How could it work? Because as we know, the main thing in music production these days is the fusion. All the problem with the low mid, or the bass drum, bass, which is actually the basis of any kind of modern music. And when you start to suddenly explode the whole orchestration and arrangement all around you, you may lose this grounded aspect. And that was the main thing. At a very early stage, I had to solve this by most of the time, maybe sometimes keeping the bass drum and bass in stereo or in X position. So actually, you never lose the roots or the grounded part of the arrangement. So that was really the basics. And then I went into each track to try to explore what Oxymore is all about. You know, oxymoron is actually the idea of mixing or uniting two elements which in principle have nothing to do with each other. Two words, like musique concrète or like artificial intelligence is another oxymore, or virtual reality is another oxymore, or you know, and I think that what we do as these days as musicians is actually creating oxymoron by, I don't know, taking the sound of a bird and mixing it with the sound of a washing machine or a bass or a clarinet.
Yeah.
And, you know, and
there are a lot of contrasts that you can create. Absolutely.
And in principle, these sounds are not made to be each other, but we put them in our music. So this is what the oxymore is based on.